right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine, and Covera, formerly Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Jim Effner, who is in the Windy City in Chicago. How are you doing, Jim?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you're the founder, president of P2P Group, sales training firm for financial services professionals, previously managing partner Northwest Mutual. You've scaled Effner Financial Group to nearly 150 advisors with 27 billion in insurance in force. And what we're going to talk about today, and you're also the author, by the way, of Bridge the Gap. Excellent. And what we want to talk about today is really navigating. I mean, we're in very, very consequential times, if you like, and there's technology upheaval, there's a lot of upheaval and all of that. How do you face, how does somebody face into leaders? How do they face into this kind of disruption with the right approach?
Well, that's a loaded question.
I only ask loaded questions.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just clarify that I'm a subject matter expert on that within the financial services world.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important to make a point of, because how other industries are going to adapt to this world with technology, with AI, with all that other kind of stuff. That's not my area of expertise, but yet it's a huge area of my expertise within the financial services world, because if you don't, you die. And so the reality of it is first and foremost, there's a massive value prop differential necessary in the world we live in today through the channels of a relationship. Mm-hmm. In other words, if you were in the financial services world today and you were really, really, really focused on volume and transactions, you would be replaced by AI.
Yeah,
because AI can do that at a very, very, very high level. But in the financial services world, fortunately, is that it's really not. And when we're talking about financial services, I'm talking about personal consumer financial services, not corporate finance, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really a human behavior business at the end of the day. If you get out of my industry and you go into, like, let's say health and fitness, if you were overweight, out of shape, and you were committed to changing that, you could go online before AI. You can even do it at a higher level now, a deeper level now with AI, and you can figure out a workout program. You can figure out a nutritional diet. You can figure out all that kind of stuff. But yet personal trainers still exist. Why is that? Because it's the relationship the trainer has, the accountability the trainer has, all that kind of stuff. And it's the same thing with managing assets and money. You can go to ChatGPT or Claude and you can say, hey, I got whatever, $5 million of assets. These are my goals. These are my priorities. This is my age. This is my family. How should I allocate my portfolio? Yeah. And it'll give you an answer. And it'll be a really, really, really good answer. But that's through logic. And although that kind of, modeling and knowledge and intellectual horsepower are important, it's as I said earlier, it's a massive human behavior business as well. Yeah. And so there's a need in financial services because money is such an intimate topic for human beings and such an integral part of their life, for them to be able to have an advisor that they feel they can first and foremost implicitly trust.
Yeah.
Second of all, they feel that advisor really, really understands them. And third of all, that they feel that advisor genuinely cares about them. And
I guess that's the point, Jim, isn't it? Like it's that human element of somebody who cares about you, somebody who, and as you said, somebody who can understand the nuances that that AI can't understand.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And when you talk about financial planning, human beings, at least in America, do a lot of really irrational things that don't make any sense whatsoever. And they need to understand why they do that, where that comes from, how to avoid it. And, that takes the touch of a relationship of an advisor that knows how to help with that. So you asked the question about how do you adapt to these times and really compete with technology. It's even that much more emphasis in our training about developing their knack for building a meaningful, deeper relationship with their clientele.
Yeah, and absolutely, and that's and to be honest, that's what we believe for salespeople across the board, regardless of whatever, I mean, I'm talking about consultative selling like that, or advisor selling across the board. That the people who will succeed will be the people who use AI to elevate themselves and add that trust piece, that expertise, that like intelligence, that gut. The other thing too, Jim, is like they've tried to remove gut instinct and experience from the whole, personal gut instinct and experience from the whole equation as well.
Right.
But there's often some of the things that we really value in somebody is their experience and their gut instinct too, backed up obviously by some data.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously in financial services, you've been through so many changes, and particularly rapid changes in over the last 20, 30 years. I mean, there've been so many different incidences and that. And what the sales leaders in financial services who really excel and can come through and navigate through these kind of changes, what kind of characteristics do they have?
Well, first of all, that if they're going to hit high levels of performance, I would say that at the top of the list, they got to have a strong desire of two things. Number one, achievement, which is a little bit more selfish in nature, but none that one would have to apologize. In other words, they have to be highly motivated and want to lead a big life and build a big business and all that kind of stuff. So that's right at the top of the list. And simultaneously, they have to have a real passion and a deep sense of the work that they do and pride, and they care about the outcome. So in other words, they're connected to more than just revenue and making money, but they're also deeply connected to having an impact with each and every one of their clients. And their clients feel that they care about making the difference, that they understand when the world's done in terms of their career, they're going to look back and it's not just going to be on their net worth and the homes they had and all that, but the differences they made in the relationships they had, and how much they had an impact on their clientele. So I would say the combination of those two are right at the top. The other thing, I think a characteristic is they have to have a short recovery time. There's a lot of rejection and objections that come in the financial services business. It's a really, really, really tough business, especially on the insurance side. Right. And so there's a lot of things that happen that can be disheartening. And for the mediocre reps and below, they go in a little, pity party for themselves, and they find themselves in a ball in the corner for weeks on end, sometimes months. Really, really, really successful sales advisors, by the end of the day, if something bad in the morning happened to them, they didn't only get over it, they forgot it even happened. They have a very, very, very quick recovery time. I think that's an important characteristic.
Yeah.
And I also would say that they always remain humble and coachable. They're,
right.
Whether they're a year in the business or 35 years in the business, they're always listening. They're always their ears to the opportunities. They always want to grow. They always want to learn. They always want to get better. They're hungry to constant improvement.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely it. I would agree. And there's one other one I think, and one that is dear to your heart, and that's resilience. I mean, and especially now with the pace of change and everything, is you need to have a really good sense of resilience. How has resilience helped you in your career?
Well, I don't know if you read my book or some of the synopsis of me, but I'm legally deaf. I lost my hearing in 2001 from most likely a mosquito bite that led into viral meningitis that took my hearing. So I hear through a cochlear implant. And I had to wait 6 months to get that cochlear implant. So I went 6 months without hearing. And from, what that has done to me in my life, I think it would have broken many others. I'm not trying to toot my horn, but I looked at that as an opportunity to make me a better person, a better husband, a better dad, a better business leader, a better, friend. I think it was, I'm a man of faith. I think things happen for a reason. And the resilience I had, not only when that happened, but even to this day, to deal with that and the challenges that come with that, I would say I would put that at the top of the list. That's a pretty blow to your big blow to your life.
Well, and absolutely, and it does. I mean, as you said, it puts into context and perspective some other things. As you said, when people have a bad day or whatever. But with you mentioned coachability, because I think that's one of the key things is in whether they're advisors, whether they're managers or leaders, it's a coachability piece. However, on the flip side, Jim, is very few people know how to coach.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. So what does good coaching look like?
Well, first of all, I think you have to have a unique resume, background, and experience to be able to do that. So in the financial services industry, like I said, that's all I know. I have a very unique resume for that because I was a field rep advisor for 12 years when I first got into the industry, and I performed in the top 1% of the industry. So not only was I an advisor, I was one of the leading advisors. So I know what it's like to be on the street. I know what it's like to have to build your own clientele. I know what it's like to face objections, rejections, disappointments. I know what it's like to want to quit. I know what it's like to want to give up and throw on the top, all that. I know that. I've lived that. And then on top of that, I ran my own firm for another 14 years where I recruited and trained and developed reps to do what it is that I did. So that was unique. So not only was I a rep at a high level, but then I was a CEO of a firm where I recruited and trained other reps. And then I left that 10 and a half years ago. And I'm now the CEO of P2P Group, which is a consultant and training company that really does nothing but training. So I'm not somebody who's an author and a speaker and a consultant, but who's never been in the trenches. And so one of the things that I think is really important for coaching, teaching, whatever word you want to place there, is credibility. That one word, credibility. When, I run workshops, and when people come to my workshops, they know who I am, they know my resume, they know where I've been, and I have credibility with them. So therefore, they're right out of the gate much more likely to listen. As opposed to, there's a lot of coaches and a lot of teachers that all they've been are coaches and teachers, and they've never been in the streets. And a lot of reps will be like, okay, this guy's pretty smart, but he doesn't know what it's like to be in my shoes. And so I would say there's a lot more than that, but I think I could have summed that up by just number one, credibility.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think that's the key. That's the key piece. And actually, and it's funny, isn't it? Because once upon a time, like doing lots of different things, might have been kind of frowned, saying, well, that's not a very linear career path. You're going from here to there to there. But the reality is you've gained an incredible amount of experience and that's what people need for coaches.
Yeah, no question. Yeah. I couldn't do what I do today if I didn't have the 12 years as an advisor and then the 14 years as a CEO and a managing partner. I couldn't do what I do today. So all of those things rolled into helping me be who I am today.
Yeah. And I mean, and you speak about the power of language in both leading and selling. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
About the importance of language. Well, one of the things that I'll give you a Cliff Note version of this, but I will answer that question very directly, but let me go one or two steps above that question. And that is the fact that when you look at really, really being an excellent financial advisor, you have to lead your clients. And when you lead your clients, there are times where you high five them, but there's also a lot of times where you got to give them a kick in the ass and they don't like it. Right. And so another characteristic of really good advisors is they have the courage to be able to share things with their clients that they might not necessarily want to hear, and they might not necessarily like them when they share those things, but they do it anyways. And it's a necessity in order to change behavior. And the reason that is because people don't change in comfort zones.
No.
They change when they're disturbed. And part of the role of a financial advisor, when appropriate, is to disturb their clients in order to change their behavior. Well, if you go all the way back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, every human being has the need to be loved, a need to be respected, a sense of belonging. And so it's a natural human tendency to not want to say or do or behave in ways that people aren't going to like you, right? And so therefore, in order to do that, it takes courage. And so in my business, what I really founded my business on is that if a rep really needs to have courage to be great, what are the things I can do to build and give them more courage? And it comes down to two other words that happen to both start with a C. One of them is conviction and one of them is confidence. And when you can grow in your conviction and you can grow in your confidence, it equates to courage. And when you have more courage, you will run through the ring of fear, which is saying and doing things that people don't like. And so that's a really big element. So now you ask me, why is language so important?
And by the way, just before you move on to that, just for those out there, just describe what you mean by conviction and how does that manifest?
In belief in what you do, why you do it, and how you do it. In other words, for me to be able to, first of all, this is important, seek to understand. So I got to ask, if I'm an advisor, a ton of questions of my client or potential client, and I got to really understand. But then once I understand, I got to be able to deliver my recommendations to them with a deep sense of conviction. That is, I know this is the right thing for you to do. And I know that down the road, this is going to get you to where you want to get to. And I know that you're going to thank me for it. Like, I know what to do. I'm an expert in this space.
It's funny, Jim, like the amount of times I'll be getting, a sales call or something, and that's the first thing I can tell the difference between somebody who believes in what they're saying and somebody who doesn't.
Yeah. It's like I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon and you need quadruple bypass. And you say to me, hey, everything I've read is this is a really, really dangerous surgery. Like, I'm scared, this and that and the other. And I look at you and like, it's not dangerous for me. I've done 5,000 of them. You're going to be fine. You're going to be better than you've ever been. You got nothing to worry about. I'm good at what I do. I know how to do it and it's going to work. That's conviction.
Yeah. So rather than the opposite where, no, it'll be fine.
Right. Exactly. So that's conviction is really important.
And then the power of language.
Yeah. So the power of language is one of the things that contributes to confidence. If I'm really good, and you got to be careful when you use the word language, because in a bad way, which it is in sales a lot, like telemarketing and all that kind of stuff, they associate language with the word that I hate, script. It's a script. I'm not teaching people to read off a script. When I'm talking about the power of language, I'm talking about, do you know how to ask or say something in a way that is articulate and it's clear, concise, and compelling? And you're not full of a bunch of ums and ahs and you're uncomfortable and, client challenges you and you don't really know how to answer it. And you think and you're awkward. That takes away from confidence. But when, one of the things that's really, one of many things that's really important for a financial advisor to do is network or get referrals or get favorable introductions, whatever you want to call it, to meet new potential clients. So when I'm working with an advisor, I want to know, how do you ask for referrals? More often than not, I want to throw up when I first meet them. It's horrible. I'm like, how do you get any? And so that's an art, and you need to be able to be eloquent and articulate. And I use those 3 C's there too: clear, concise, and compelling. And reps need to practice that. And that's a trait, by the way. You asked me what are the traits that make good ones. One of the traits that I think hurts reps, that is very poorly embraced, is practicing.
Yes, I would agree. I would absolutely agree. And I think it's like, here's the thing, Jim, right? I guarantee you, a lot of sales reps practice whatever hobby, they probably practice their golf swing or they practice their pickleball or whatever it is they do. Probably even pay coaches sometimes to help them, but they don't practice or invest in the thing that puts bread on the table.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's one thing I just never understood. And the thing is, when people say practice, I mean, it's easy. You role play. I mean, it's simple. It's
Right.
you can. It's a thing that most good sales organizations know how to do, and that and it's not that difficult. But you got to make a commitment.
Right.
Yeah. And just on the last piece here, culture. I mean, have you built a deliberate culture in your organization, and what are the main tenets of that?
It would be better to ask my people that, because obviously I'm going to give you a biased answer at the
Sure.
top. I believe I've developed a really big culture, and that is around, excellence.
Mhm.
It's around, delivering things in ways that, not taking things that we don't think we can, do a magnificent job, not working with clients that we don't like. We want to do things that we want to stick to doing things and taking on assignments and projects that we know we're really good at, if not the best in the industry.
Mhm.
We know that we really enjoy the people we're doing it with, and we know that they are in alignment with us, and that's how good things happen. And so I would say those are kind of what I would call, expectations. Those
Yeah.
expectations we carry with us. I would also say that our culture is about, under promising and over delivering.
Right.
And, we don't, for example, if I do sales training for major organizations, a lot of insurance companies,
Mhm.
and we negotiate an annual contract fee to do that, But if they call me up and they say, hey, we're having this meeting, it's in Orlando, it's in October, and a lot of our field leaders are going to be there, and I think they need to hear from you a message. And that wasn't something that was part of what we talked about at the beginning of the year in the contract. They say,
Mhm.
how much extra would you charge for that? I'd be like, I'm not going to charge anything for it.
Yeah.
I told you when I agreed to do all of your sales training, I'm going to leave it on the field. And when you have things that you need done and you want me to do, it's done. I'm in. I'll
Mhm.
go above and beyond the Call of Duty. I'm not going to nickel and dime you, So I really want people, after they work with P2P, to feel that we really cared. We really had their back. We gave them more than they had hoped for, and that we exceeded their expectations.
Yeah, and it sounds like, which is the thing one of our mottos is win together, and that the idea of like both the buyer and seller should win. It should be a
Right.
mutual win. And let's face it, Jim, and what you're outlining there in your process and how you engage with customers, it should be enjoyable.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be a stressful experience.
absolutely. Especially at my age. I mean,
I
maybe
hear you.
when I was in my 20s and 30s and early 40s, I did a lot of stuff that I didn't necessarily enjoy. But
Mm.
at this stage, I'm 59 in a week. I've earned the right to only do what I love doing.
Yeah, here. Amen to that. Well, listen, thanks so much, Jim. All of Jim's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do remind people about what you do.
Well, what I do is professional sales training, and I focus exclusively in the financial services industry with a pretty heavy emphasis on life insurance. So I work mainly with insurance companies, but we also work in the space of managing assets and financial advisors. And I really our company does two very specific things. First and foremost, we focus on brand new advisor training, typically in their very first year. So we structure and organize training to mold inside a culture to help increase early productivity and retention of financial advisors and agents that are hired in their first year. That's one thing we do. And the second thing we do is we take agents and advisors that have already, quote unquote, made it,
Mhm.
typically between their third and 15th year in the business. And we run workshops for them to take their business and transform their growth, which is 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 exit. So that's really what we do.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thanks again, Jim. Thank you for watching and listening. See you all again very soon.
Thank you.